What kind of sacrifices are you making to serve Christ? In what ways are you reaching out to really make a difference for the kingdom of God? Have you ever had somebody just kind of show up on your doorstep and say, hey, I need a place to stay? And, maybe you accommodated them. Maybe they stayed 2 or 3 nights, maybe a couple of weeks, and things get kind of tough after maybe 2 or 3 weeks. But then, they move on. You get back to normal life. But what if you were to quit the job you have right now and to renovate your home to a way that you could accommodate young pregnant girls in their time of need right now? Wow, we're going to talk about it with our guest, Paige Kimberlin. Paige, welcome to Mid-South Viewpoint.
Thank you.
Good
to be here.
I love to go to Chick-fil-A. Who doesn't like Chick-fil-A? I mean, it's a great place to go eat. It's always really busy. But I ran into your husband, Brad, and I had remembered Brad, but it had been so many years since we had seen each other. And I'd go in like sometimes early in the morning and grab something to eat before I got on the air at 7 o'clock here at the radio station. And one morning, Brad said, hey, and he handed me this card right here. It's called Mid-South Love Home. And I was excited to be able to have you come and share something that you and Brad do together as a ministry.
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
Okay.
You literally were working as a school teacher. Brad was working in the school, too. Was he a teacher also?
He was. He was the athletic director, head football coach, track coach. And all of our children were there at school. So it was our world for 10 years.
And all of a sudden you said, we're moving to a whole new direction.
Exactly.
I mean, this was a big step for you guys.
It was. And, I don't know, on our website we have a little tab that says Our Story. And it goes into the lengthy process, or the lengthy story of what exactly God did and how he called us to this. And without Brad knowing this, God called or gave me this vision back in 2003. We had bought a home sight unseen because he dumped it in our lap. And the first time we saw the home, as I walked out onto the front porch, God very clearly told me this would make a great love home someday. And so it was one of those things that you tuck away in your heart and think, how, when, how could that ever work? And then in November of 2012, Brad and I were looking at different ways to get involved in ministry through our church. We had been teachers and coaching, and that had been our world, but we were ready, for something new. And as we were looking through some websites of what ministries our church sponsored, we saw the South Haven Care Center, which is a pregnancy center, and they had maternity homes. And so very clearly, God was like, now. So I was like, Brad, I need to tell you something. And he was like, what? And so I told him, and he looked at me and he said, okay. And then
this time, you guys both are parents of 4 children, right?
Exactly.
So when this vision was starting to develop here, where were the kids at that time?
In 2012, when it was like now is the time, we had one in college, one that was a junior in high school, a 9th grader, and a 7th grader. So 4 teenagers.
And you guys decided to quit kind of a pretty steady, stable job position.
Steady.
And steady,
we
exactly.
knew what was coming in.
Knew it was coming in.
But we knew, especially with me teaching, the hours are not flexible. And, I have to have my phone with me at all times. I can get a call and have on many occasions and had to go pick a girl up within 30 minutes or an hour. And so being in a school setting, I would not have that freedom to be able to drop everything and go pick someone up. And so we knew that was just not going to work, to stay teaching and to be able to really do the ministry the way we knew God wanted us to.
Well, Paige, did you ever personally experience some teenage pregnancy in your own family, or maybe a close friend or someone that caused you to maybe have a heart leaning toward a ministry like this?
No, and you would think that I would, but I don't know. Many people know that Bill and Ruby Burdett started the Love Home back in 1988. And I was in high school at the time. Actually, I had just graduated. But Brad and I were at Central Church. We both were in the youth, and the Burdett's started that ministry. And so I knew about it. Every time we would have a missions conference, I would go to their table. For some reason, which I know now, but back then I didn't know, God was really just drawing my heart to that ministry. And my first teaching job was at Elliston Baptist Academy, and I had an 8th grader that got pregnant. And there was also a ninth grader at the school that was pregnant. So I called Miss Ruby and asked her if she would do a chapel program. And she came, and both girls were absent. And I was like, now, God, you knew she was coming, and you could have made those girls be here. And I couldn't really understand what he was doing. So she left me some information. I gave that to my little 8th grader, and I left that teaching job in May, never to see any of those people again. Well, 3 years later, the Burdettes had a booth at a missions conference. Of course, I went to it, and I was flipping through her photo album and saw my 8th grader. Oh. And I looked at Miss Ruby, and I was like, she came? And she said, yes. You know, she was one of our commuters. So God had been preparing my heart, and Brad and I both knew about the Love Home Ministry from high school on, but had no idea.
Well, what's so unique and real special about this, and has some demands to it, because you use your own home.
Right. And in our opinion, that is what makes the Love Home so precious. Our mission statement is a family-style maternity home, meeting the needs of women in crisis situation, because we want them to live in a family environment. Of all the girls we've had to date, none of them grew up in a traditional home. None of them have been able to see what a husband and wife relationship looks like. They haven't seen children, and they don't know conflict resolution, and you know, just that there's quarrels, but then that's okay. That doesn't mean the relationship is over.
So you guys don't stop doing life just because these young ladies are in your home.
Correct.
I mean, you're continuing to be a family. You know, the activities that you might have, you're just doing what you would do, but accommodating the needs of these girls.
Right. They step into our life. I picked a girl up on the way to a football game one Thursday when my son was playing junior high. She jumped in the car and went to a football game with us. And that, too, has been really special, because they cheer for our children in their sporting events, and they really become part of our family. I mean, they eat dinner with us. They sit around and watch TV with us. They drive, you know, to the store, to church. We just do life together. And, you know, our desire is to be a 24/7 support system, to be either an extension of a family, or for some of them, we are their family. That's all they have. And so that it does make the ministry very unique, but very, very special.
You guys had to do some renovations, I mean, to make accommodations to the home. And how much of a renovation job did you do? And I mean, did you guys finance this yourself? Did you get support from friends, church? I mean, how did this all come about?
Well, I finished the school year in November when we knew that God was calling us to do this. Brad went ahead and left the teaching job at Christmas. I finished out that school year. And through that whole spring, you know, God really just began giving me visions for the actual home and things that needed to be done there. And we decided, well, we'll spend the summer getting the home ready, and we'll be open for girls in August.
You said girls, plural, not singular. So this home is accommodating more than one young lady.
Correct. We can house 4 very comfortably. And, you know, if you were to see a picture of the outside of our home, you would think, there's no way that a family of 6 and 4 pregnant girls and some babies could live there. But it is the perfect home. It's like a time warp upstairs. And we always called that our boys' dorm. We have 3 sons, and they were always, their 3 bedrooms are upstairs with an office, a bonus room, which was their playroom, and a couple of bathrooms. And our daughter was downstairs with us. She had 2 rooms because she's the only girl, and she needed that. So she had 2 rooms, a playroom and a bedroom, and then our room. So what we told the children, and we told them at Thanksgiving, we said, next summer, we're going to flip the house, and we're going to move the boys downstairs into those 2 rooms. We'll move Kendall upstairs in one of the rooms, and that'll free 2 rooms up for the girls.
What about revealing the vision and the ministry to the kids of the home? Because they had to make some adjustments too.
Well, and you know, that was such confirmation that this is only a God thing, because we told them at Thanksgiving. Josh, our oldest, is in Birmingham at college, and so he came home for Thanksgiving. So we had all 4 of them, and we told them, you know, this is what God is calling us to do, and all 4 of them were like, okay. Their response was so much like Brad's. It was just, okay, let's do it. And so we told them we were going to flip the home during the summer. Well, at Christmas, when Josh came home, they were ready to do it. They were, let's do it now. So we spent the whole Christmas break painting the 2 girl rooms that were Kendall's rooms boy colors, and making one of the rooms upstairs that were very boy into a girl room. And so we went ahead at Christmas and flipped the kids, and Kendall moved upstairs and the boys moved downstairs. We did not start working on the 2 rooms for the girls until the summer, but they were so excited. It really, really is truly a miracle.
What have been some of the biggest challenges and even adjustments that you guys have had to make?
I think in the beginning, we have a den for the girls upstairs, and we initially did not have the TV hooked up. And so when they wanted to relax and watch TV, they would come to the den downstairs, which the whole house, with the exception of, we have a door that locks off our bedroom and the boys' bedrooms, and it's got a code. And so the girls are not allowed back there. And then Kendall has one of those locks on her door, and the girls are not allowed in her room. But besides those 2 areas, the girls have free reign of the whole house. It is theirs to use as if it was their very own.
Right.
And so the first 2 girls that we had 2 that moved in pretty much back to back, and they loved to be in the den. They loved to sit with the family. They loved the whole interaction of all the kids and us. But what I was noticing, I would sit in the den and I'd look around, and I would realize it was just me and the 2 girls, and my family had scattered. And I realized, we have got to be intentional on making sure we have family time, that we preserve our family in the midst of ministry.
Yeah.
So that was the initial, wow, that's something we didn't anticipate.
Obviously, when a young lady's pregnant and there's 9 months to deliver, I don't know exactly where you might pick up, along their pregnancy. But is this something that you decide maybe there's a particular portion of the year that we're not going to take girls in, or is this is just around 365 24/7?
It is a 365 24/7. We have noticed we had one break in the past 2 years. We've housed girls for 2 years, and we had one, what I call a sabbatical, and that was not by choice. We had our 2 girls move out, had their babies, and then we had some calls, but nobody actually moved in. And, I was kind of like, well, God, was that it? 2 girls, is that it? Because I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
And I realized that we had our second son, Grant, was graduating from high school, about to go to college, and he needed us. He needed us during that time. And so God naturally gave us a sabbatical just when we needed it. And then we had a girl move in July, another one in September, and then it's been nonstop for the past year.
And where do you find these young ladies?
Well, we are not out looking for them. We have several ministries, and they all have our information. They know what we do. And when they come across girls that are abortion determined or abortion vulnerable or are in a dangerous situation or, just crisis, they will give that girl our information. And then it's up to her whether she calls or not. And, we have many churches that know about us that have also come across girls. The South Haven Care Center has our information. So we have just tried to get in the pro-life community and make it known that we are here. And there are still so many people that don't know.
Yeah, is there any age requirements or other qualifications a young lady would have to meet before she could come in?
Well, we like for them to be 18 because they can sign the waivers and all on their own. But we are not opposed to having someone younger. We did have a 15-year-old that we really thought, I went to pick her up. Her stuff was in my car. We thought she was coming. But because of an unusual situation, she was going to be coming from Tennessee into our home in Mississippi. And there was just some concern about kidnapping, just crossing state lines and things like that. But she ended up not coming. But it wasn't that we rejected her or told her she could not. So we would, our target group is 18 to 24. And we've had a couple that have been older than that. We had a 27-year-old and a 28-year-old. So we're not, it's so individualized. Every girl comes with her own story and her own needs. and we just lay our yes on the table, and then let God do what He wants to do.
As you mentioned, Paige, so many the different girls come from a variety of different backgrounds, different family situations. How do you work through those issues like trouble with their parents or maybe a drug addiction or something like that comes along packaged with the pregnancy?
We haven't had a lot of situations where there have been drug issues, and we're thankful for that. We had one that had some issues, but God has miraculously taken care of stuff like that. But we are we have a counselor that we try to hook the girls up with, that they can talk to and work through some of those issues. We don't force them to lay everything out, but as they receive the love and learn to trust, a lot of it just starts spilling out. And they do want help, and they realize they do need Jesus. And that is really the biggest blessing. We want to see them desire a relationship. And we know if they can see it lived out, really lived out, and know that, there's no judgment, it's just love. Our desire is just point them to Him and let them know that He is why we are doing what we do. But we don't allow visitors for the most part. We have only had one situation where the family was involved, and we were have been okay with them coming, but it's scheduled visits and things like that, because we've got to protect the other girls that are there as well as our own family.
Yeah. What about special licensing or zoning for your home? And what about your neighbors? I mean, all those things I factor in, I'm sure.
It does. And in the beginning, when we started looking at all of that, we were able to call the board or the planning, building codes and all of that in Olive Branch. And you can have a certain number of people that are not family members living in your home, and it's dictated off of square footage and how many people are living in the home and things like that. And so with having 4 girls in addition to the 6 of us, with the square footage that we have, we're fine. So there's not any special licensings. We are not a government agency. We are a 501c3. We are private. And so we don't have anything through the government that we had to do. We established ourselves as an LLC, and with the state of Mississippi, we are an entity. But besides that, we haven't had to. The few neighbors that I told initially were excited, and then one of them told me later that somebody was like, I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen. They were concerned about the integrity of our home or the neighborhood, worried that there would be cars everywhere or strangers coming in at wee hours of the night. And what it was, they just didn't understand what the ministry was going to look like and how it was going to function, and the guidelines and the rules and boundaries that we are establishing. And if you ask the neighbors right around us that know that we've been housing girls, love it. And our neighbors across the street, there's a lake behind it. And my last 2 girls just realized that fishing was their pastime. And those neighbors would let them walk through their yard and go fish. And they even had one of those boats that you pedal, and they let the girls use that. And they really embraced the girls. And another neighbor told me he saw them walking, two of our girls walking, and he thought, uh-oh, they're going to come, ask for money. And they approached him, and one of them was asking for some sand because she wanted to plant a little plant in a cup. And he told me later, he goes, they were so respectful and so sweet. And so the neighbors that really know about it have truly embraced it.
Paige, obviously 9 months are associated with pregnancy for the most part. As we mentioned, girls can come in different points of that pregnancy, I'm sure. How far after the young lady delivers the child do you continue to walk with them? How long do they stay with you?
Well, when we were first planning everything and setting out our guidelines, there's a ministry in California called Precious Life, and it is a maternity home that has gone much further than us. It started in a lady's home or in a couple's home, but now is a whole block in LA. And we got a lot of their paperwork and, some of their guidelines. So initially in our paperwork, it says up to 6 weeks. That's typically how long it takes, to get back to work, let the baby get in daycare so that you can go back to work. But we have found, like I said before, every situation is so individualized. We had one that came to us and she had gotten kicked out of the dorm because they couldn't house her in college pregnant. And so she stayed with us until the next time that she could go into college. You know what I mean? Because you have to wait. It's on margin.
Sure.
Anyway. And so she ended up staying with us 3 months after her baby was born. And that's not typical, but we weren't about to send her away. And we knew she had a plan. Our whole thing is we're trying to help them write a future story. What do you want your future to look like? And let us help you get on that path. And depending on the girl, those paths are very different. And so, what we don't want is for them to get comfortable and lazy and decide, I'm not going to hurry a lot, to get out of here because this is nice.
Yeah.
And so we had another one who was moving into a ministry in Hernando when she left us. And it took a while for her to get all of her ducks in a row. So her baby was 4 months old when she left. And so, the plan is 6 weeks, but, we love these girls and these babies.
Flexibility is the key.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And then after that, they're in our life we are in their life as long as they let us.
Well, they're part of your home.
That's right.
In your heart.
I was telling one of the ladies up here just now, I got a text from our very first girl today, just while I was here. And I haven't been able to find her because her, their phones, they use up the minutes or it gets shut off. And I've got like 8 numbers for her, and I haven't been able to find her. And she texted, "Hey, Miss Paige, what are you doing?" and so that to me, it was 2 years ago since she lived with us. That is what it's about. She knows we are here for her.
Well, Paige, what about shared responsibilities? The laundry, the cleaning, the cooking, buying the groceries. Who does all that?
Well, it is shared. Definitely, because I can't do all of it myself. The girls are responsible for their own area upstairs. They clean their own rooms. They clean their own bathrooms. The den up there is theirs. I won't say I don't frequent it, but I definitely don't go up there to clean. So they take care of that. They do their own laundry. And, we've had to tweak that because they can't, they've learned they can't put their clothes in to wash and leave them there all day, because other people are waiting for the washer to come open. And so they work on getting their laundry done. We do work together on the downstairs, but, a lot of these girls, especially as they get to the end, I'm not pressuring them to, keep up with the housework. But I will say our dishwasher has a little magnet that says clean on one side and dirty on the other, because I realized everybody was piling their dishes in the sink and the dishwasher was empty, but nobody was looking to see, is it empty or do dishes need to be unloaded? And so that's definitely a shared responsibility. If they're clean and you need to load some, unload it and then load your dirty ones. So yes, it's definitely, we need the help taking care of the home.
Well, you mentioned earlier that this is a 501c, a nonprofit organization set up with the Love Home. But how are you guys funded? I mean, you don't get government grants or anything.
That's correct. We are funded strictly by personal, private donations, families, couples, people, individuals that support us. We've got several churches that support us, some monthly, some with one-time donations. We have an annual fundraising banquet, which is wonderful. We've had some of the girls share, and that's a really special time and a good way to not only bring our people together, but to raise funds as well. We have applied for several grants. We have gotten a couple, just private grants, and God's just provided. And it hasn't been easy. There were some months that we thought, this isn't working too well, and God has definitely come through. And sometimes it's, by the skin of our chinny chin chin, and sometimes there's some extra.
As we get ready to wrap up, I don't want to leave without not maybe sharing something from maybe somebody you've ministered to, a young lady who has lived at the Love Home experienced the love you've shared, maybe even come to Christ. Can you share as we close out maybe something from someone?
I would love to. I've got 3 letters here that 2 of them are from 2 of our girls, and one is from the mother of one of our commuters. And a commuter is someone that is in a crisis situation, but not so much of a crisis that they need a place to live. And this was a mom and daughter that saw me when I was on Pass It On TV, and she saw me, and then a couple months later, her daughter ended up pregnant. So she tracked me down, and I met with them, and it was just a really neat, unusual situation, very much a God thing, but I was able to work with her, taking her to her appointments, helping her with school, getting to school.
Can you give us a piece of that letter?
I will. She said Paige took her to every appointment and then took her to school. She worked with the school counselors so that my daughter was able to finish school a full semester early with her high school diploma. And that is so important to me as a former teacher, to see these girls accomplish that goal. And this mother was so grateful, and the girl was precious too. I had another girl that had been in a shelter, and she had to leave every day with her little suitcase, because in that shelter you had to leave by, let's say, 8 o'clock, and you couldn't get back till 4. And she would have to take her little suitcase of all her things. You couldn't leave anything there, and get on the bus, and she would go to work. And in the letter that she wrote to me, she said, after my first week, all worries were gone. Not only did God bless me with a place to live, He blessed me with a truly loving extended family. And that meant so much to us, because we want them to feel like we are family. And at the end of it, she said, thanks for everything, Mid-South Love Home. I will forever love my new extended family.
Wow.
And one of our other girls came with so much, I don't want to call it baggage, but she had been through so much, just so much pain, so much hurt, so much rejection. And her letter, it says, I would like to thank you for being there for me. I would have never made it without you guys. You changed my life and made me realize that I'm here for a reason. I didn't really know much about God until I came around you, but God is able. And I don't do drugs anymore or drink, because you showed me that's not going to solve my problems.
Oh, my.
And there was one night when something had happened. Somebody had made a comment to her that broke her heart. And, then we're there trying to help her piece it back together. And she came downstairs, and Brad and I were in the kitchen. And she said, I was just in my room walking around, and I was crying, and I just was thinking about what she said to me. And she said, I just got down on my knees, and I just prayed. I left my door open. I didn't care if anybody walked by or not. I just got on my knees and prayed. And that's what it's all about, is them realizing that God is there and that He has a very specific plan for them. And many of these girls have not been validated. They don't know that they are special, that they need to be treated like a jewel,
yes,
that they have worth and value. And that is the type of language that we desire to speak into them, so that they can leave our home knowing that not only does God love them, but they have a purpose here.
Yes, Paige, they do have a purpose. And thank you for making your home available in the Love Home, so that they can experience that and see the love of Jesus, really seeing that love works. They're seeing it so practical by, them allowing them to invade your lives like you're doing. And thank you so much for sharing. Now, I'm sure listeners want to contact you to be able to follow up. Is there a newsletter? Is there a website? How can folks keep up with you guys? Maybe learn about ways they can participate, maybe help, provide financial contributions?
We do have a website. It is midsouthlove.wix.com with a /MSLH. If they Googled Mid-South Love Home, it would probably pop up. I also have a Facebook page with the same title. Everything is Mid-South Love Home. My email is midsouthlovehome@gmail.com. And so they definitely could find us. We would love to have new ministry partners.
Well, Paige, I want to thank you and Brad both and your whole family for what you're doing for Christ's kingdom through the Mid-South Love Home. Thanks for sharing with Bot Radio today.
Thank you.
Friends, that's all the time we have on this edition of Mid-South Viewpoint. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Byron Tyler. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.